Good afternoon, everyone. I'm really happy to be here, and first of all, I definitely want to say congratulations to Mabel on all her hard work and her being able to take some retirement and some time off and having all of your work to acknowledge today. I just want to say congratulations on behalf of the Stellat'en First Nation, and I'm sure also Chief Maureen Luggie would also extend her thanks to you for all your hard work from the Wet'suwet'en First Nation especially. So today I really was touched by all of the presentations. I really believe in healing narratives. One of my teachers taught me about healing narratives many years ago, Fire Jean Graveline, and she is a two-spirited woman, and she taught me about sharing and how much healing that sharing brings to ourselves and how much that brings to everyone else as who you're sharing with, because it brings back our own narratives. And thinking about all of the elders, I remember Selena John as an elder and her talking to my grandmother, and she would go around and talk to all the elders, and she would be the one to go up and be a voice for people because she was such a strong lady. So it's good to think about those elders and thinking about my own grandmother and all the time I spent with her and all of the times we had discussions about everything, because I was with her when I was going to school, so I'd be able to be researching something and I'd be able to go and talk to her about it, and then we'd just have a conversation about it. And those are things that you can do that bring healing and bring things into perspective. So some of the things that I wanted to talk about for health is the importance of healing and the importance of being committed to healing, the importance of cleansing. My grandmother used to tell me to lie down by the river with your feet against the current and let the current flow and let things go. Let the things that are bothering you and all of that, you have to let it go, and you have to do that cleansing all the time. And so many things in our culture is about cleansing. The tzezel that you have with spruce boughs, that you have with anything like that, it's all about cleansing. And so our ancestors believed in that, and I remember my grandmother doing the smudge with the spruce bough as well, to burn the spruce boughs and to smudge with it and then burn that, and even to have spruce boughs when you're cleansing, to have it there to help you get rid of some people might call it negative energy or bad spirits or anything, whatever you might call it. That baggage. One of my friends tells me sometimes, I don't know what to say, Tannis, but sometimes you got to take the garbage out. And I'm like, yes, I do. So I practice that cleansing, and a lot of my friends work with me in different ways, and in their cultures too, as different indigenous people. We share that knowledge of cleansing and how important that is to our people, and especially during these times, we have to remember to be healthy and to practice our culture. And you really have to practice that culture to really know it and to really be involved. So as a board of directors for CSFS, it's been a very interesting time, and I've learned a lot. And I can say that everyone as a board of directors, we don't do any of the work, but we're here to represent the communities. And I'm really honored to be a part of that in our discussions. And when we listen to the reports and when we talk about it, everybody's there to represent their community and advocate and to try and make things better. Like, everybody tries their best to be as informative and supportive, and tries to share as much as they can to make things better, really from a genuine place. And it's not always easy, and but we still do it because we really do care about our communities. And Warner and Mary and Mabel and all of these people have to listen to us and put up with us too. But it's kind of funny how it works. Sometimes you have to have those challenging conversations, and you have to really keep at it to try and advocate for your community, try and get services in the community. And it doesn't only happen here, because then they have to go to the health authority, they have to go to governments, and they have to try and make things happen from that place. So we have so many levels of health and services and wellness that needs to happen for our people. And the community is the most important. During these times, it is so hard, culturally speaking. It's so hard for us during this time. We've lost so many loved ones in our community. And when my grandmother passed away, I had people in my community come to me and hold me and pray for me and stay with me and sing with me, and just so much incredible support. And we can't be there for each other right now like that. We can't. My heart goes out to all the families, all the people who've lost loved ones, because things aren't the same right now, and it's not easy for us either. So just virtually, I just want to send out love and hugs for everyone who's dealing with maybe any kind of illness, or anything that they're struggling through, or any kind of grief. That is so important for us to be there for each other, and we just can't be there for each other the way we usually are naturally, because even in our communities, like Warner said earlier, we have all these connections, and we have all these connections generations and generations and generations back. And that's what is really truly in our hearts. Sure, there's lateral violence, there's a lot of things that happen, that is a struggle for our communities, but when it comes right down to it, we're there for each other. When, many years back, my nephew was only 2 years old, and he was diagnosed with cancer, and he had to go through several treatments, and people from everywhere came out and supported our family, like everywhere. And our people are like that. When somebody is struggling in one area, there's people just coming out of the woodwork, trying to raise money, trying to help them, trying to support them. And those are the real strengths that I see in our people, in our communities. And I always remember that, how important that is to support each other, and to remember that when things come down to it, we're really there for each other, and we're strong for each other. So I think this has been an interesting time to reflect on what kind of world we're living in right now. We've had many reports over the last few years. There's many big changes happening. People are looking at traditional laws, and people are looking at how culture and language is the answer to everything, pretty much. Because in all the meetings that I've been to all over the place, we're talking about culture and language is always the answer. And it's the colonization is inevitable. It's impacted us all in many different ways, and some people may think that it hasn't impacted them, but it has. And we all have our own stories, even from all of the the things that the government did, but yet in our communities, each one of us has our own personal story and our own family history of what happened. And we have our own elders who've told us stories to warn us about what happened. You know, like I remember as a child, my grandmother telling me to watch the TV and talk like those people there on the TV, because she didn't want me to go into school speaking our language. She didn't want me to even have an accent, because her children all went to residential school and they were abused for speaking their language. So that's the reality that we're living with. So everybody's working to bring back the language, bring back the culture on so many different levels, and there's so many big changes that are going to happen. Because what they are talking about, worldview, the worldview that I grew up with as a child, I was really spiritually gifted as a child, and when I went into school, it was gone. Like, you know, all of the things that I was taught as a child, as soon as I went to school, I knew that I was in a different world. I knew that most of the people who I went to school with did not believe in what I believed and what my people believed, you know. So we all have those experiences when you know, there's probably a time in most of our lives when it's clear to us, when we go into the educational system, this isn't our world. Sometimes it might feel like you don't belong there. And that still happens to our children today. And so what some people talk about, indigenization, because change has to happen in a big way everywhere, not only here, but in our communities, in our schools. Our language and our culture has to be accepted on a big level to change the consciousness of people that there is actually some really important things in our culture. There's some really important things in our language, and it cannot be ignored anymore or suppressed, and we are allowed to do this freely now. And we've always practiced our language and culture, but it's always been at resistance. It's been at a level of resistance. So when we change the world, when this happens, when everything starts changing, it's not only going to be happening here, it's going to be happening in our communities everywhere at all levels. And some people talk to me when we're talking about the changes in law, having the hereditary systems involved, having the culture involved, and some people, I was even scared talking about it, and I was talking to a colleague of mine, and I said, I don't even know if this is the right thing to do myself. And he said, you know, if you guys take over the government and you have your own government system, it's got to be better than the one we're living under right now. And I said, yeah, you know what, you have a point there, because our governing systems, our laws is not going to be that bad. You know, it's our people being involved. Sure, it's not going to be perfect and it's going to take a lot of work, but having this cultural and having our traditional laws, I don't know, you know, for me growing up, the thing that always saved me was my traditional knowledge from my elders. The culture, that's what I always came back to help me. So I really believe it's going to be a great thing in the future, and I really believe that we're not only going to change things for us here and our people in our communities, but we're going to change things at a national level and at a worldwide level, because in many ways we already are. You know, in many ways, look at all of the activists. Look, all of our people are the ones who have been out there protesting and resisting the damage to the environment. And the people in our community have been doing that for years and years and years. They've been concerned about fishing and hunting and berries and medicines and everything that's important to us, because that is our connection to our territory for years and years and years. We have a story in our community about one of the mountains, and that's the Mouse Mountain, and it's about two women who were on their moon time, and they outsmarted a cannibal and were able to save themselves. And it's a way of teaching us about women during that time when they're going to be able to create, they're going to be able to be mothers, that how powerful they are. And so in many of our cultures, that is a time where women, you know, they're allowed to, we're always working, but we're allowed to kind of not be involved as much, because it's not because we might harm, well, it's because we're powerful during that time. So during that time, traditionally, sometimes you don't go out, you don't go in the public, and you kind of stay back a little bit, and you learn how to do things with other women, with older women. And then my grandmother told me at the start, because I was, when I was younger, and then, well, not that much younger, but I was with my grandmother, and she was telling me that I had to come help her with something, and I was like, no, Grandma, you know, it's that time, I can't do anything right now. And she's like, oh, you're old enough already, it doesn't matter. So she said it's more important when you're really young, for the really young women, when that's their very powerful time for them. And then when they're older and that time is coming to an end for them, that's when they're truly powerful. And we lost that over the years. We lost that respect for the women's power, for the power that the Creator gave us to have children, to be mothers, to understand that motherly love. And it happened through colonization, through residential schools, and through patriarchy, because the colonizing society was a patriarchal society, and their women fought to have rights in our lifetime. And their women are still fighting to have equality and rights. And our women, our society was a matrilineal society, and it was flipped on its head, because our women did have equality. They did have the right to be leaders. They did have the right to pack a moose. Like Priscilla said earlier, women had that right to do that, to be strong, and to have traditional names. But that was taken away, and it was frowned upon, and people tried so hard to make our women beneath them. People tried so hard to put down our women over the years, and some people got quite comfortable with that, and it was so taught, it was ingrained so much into our society by the residential schools, by the churches, by the patriarchy. It was so ingrained into our society that we even believe it still to this day. And it's not, I'm not trying to hurt anyone or say that anyone is bad for that. It's just something that happened to our society, and we have to bring women back into that position of honor. We have to bring our mothers back into that position of honor, and we have to understand. I'm not saying that men are all against women or anything like that, but I'm saying it has to be acknowledged. This happened through colonization. Their society, the colonizing society, knows it's wrong, what they did to themselves. We have to recognize that it's wrong, that it was brought into our world as well. So these are the kind of like big changes that have to happen. They have to happen in our community, and we have to consciously make that decision. Am I gonna Am I gonna think that this person can't do something because they're a woman or because they're a man or anything like that? We might think that we're to a level where that's not happening anymore, but it's not true. You know, I've talked to a lot of women who are in leadership, and I've seen it and witnessed it for myself, the amount of strength that it takes a woman to have to defend themselves and stand up for themselves constantly, to prove themselves twice as much, 3 times as much, 4 times as much as they should, because people don't think that maybe they should be a leader for their community or whatever it might be. So that is just one example of how something can change your world, can change your society, how it can impact so many areas of our lives and our communities, and how we have to take our own laws, we have to take our culture, and we have to change it. We have to change it back to a place where we think it should be, where we think that it'll be good for our children. Because that's all that really matters in our work. All that really matters is the children and the future generations. So when a lot of women who are really fighting to be resistant against climate change, they're the ones that are still out there, and my heart goes out to them. They're really fighting, but we all know it's our culture. We all know it's our culture to protect the environment. We all know our traditional territories are important. And, you know, the government is starting to commit money to climate change now, but that is something that we should be involved in too. That is something that Indigenous people all across Canada have to be involved in, because we're the ones who care about our traditional territories. We're the ones who care about our land. And we're the ones who need our children to be fishing in the future. We're the ones who need our children to be hunting in the future. We need our children to be able to practice their culture in the future. So all of these things are changing, but we have to own it, and we have to make sure that we make it clear that this is our culture. This is what we want in our territory. This is what we're gonna accept. This is what's gonna be our standard. So there's a lot of things that we have to think about. And even though whether I have differences with anyone or anything like that, or whether I'm not sure if a traditional law is right or wrong, or I'm not sure if these are some of the things that come to me, is I'm not sure about this leader or that leader, whatever it might be, if I don't believe in our own traditional laws and our own culture, then I'm just taking on the role of the colonizer. I'm just taking on that role of thinking that we're not good enough. And I really loved what Marie Sinclair said earlier today, because that is so true. You know, whether I'm at a meeting or if I'm happy or not with what's happening, if I'm not involved, and if we're not involved as people, and if we don't have a say in what happens, and if we don't support our people everywhere, and if we're not a part of what's happening, then it's just like, you know what? The colonization that happened is good enough for me. The colonization that is continuing on is good. And it's just like saying that we have to be fully on board, because if you have concerns, that means you care. And if you have concerns, you should be involved in making a change, because the discussion has to start somewhere and it has to build up, and that's how change is really going to happen, by having those people who really care involved. And if we do have that in our future, I believe that's going to be good for our children. I believe that they'll be able to grow up in a world where their spirits are not crushed. Sorry, I promised myself I wouldn't get emotional up here, but it's very important for us to be involved in this change that's happening right now. There's big changes and they have to happen, and we have to do it, and everyone has to be involved at every level in our communities. We love each other. We have healers in our communities. In our community, we have Red Rock, Stellat'en, or Saik'uz Shangek, and we go up that mountain, and my grandmother took me up that mountain all the time, and she would say, we stay on the trail, and she'd say, that's where Saik'uz Shangek is. That's where the medicine women go. That's where the women who dream go. When a woman goes there, she already knows where to go. Nobody tells her, and she goes there by herself and stays there. And it's not anyone who can go there. I've been going up there all my life. I've never been there once. I've never been to that area once. I stay on the trail and I go up the mountain to pray. But that's how sacred our powerful women are. The powerful women who are the true healers, they have places where they go and they gain their power, but it's only meant for those special dreamers. It's only meant for those special healers. It's not meant for just anyone. You know, and people want to go there sometimes, and we try to tell them, and it's not to hurt them or make them upset, but it's to try and make them understand some things aren't meant for everybody. Not everybody is supposed to be a healer. Not everyone is supposed to be a medicine woman. And there's some things in life that only certain people do. So we've had healers in our communities and dreamers, and many different medicinal people who make medicines, you know, people who pray. And one of the healers in our community, my Aunt Louise, was talking to my grandmother when I was a child, and she said, you know, she always prayed, and she said, praying is good. And so my grandmother talked to me about it, and she said, you know, it's always good to pray. God didn't do all these things to us. It was people that did all these things to us. So they were never against prayer. And Louise, being the spiritual woman she was, I believe that to this day. And so in my struggles, I always pray. I always pray, and I always believe that that helps me. And when I think about other people, I always pray for them too, because I believe that helps. And Louise had an incredible knowledge of the spirit world. She had an incredible knowledge of the spirit world, and she healed many people. And she said, she told my grandmother once, I can't help people that don't believe. She said, she always said it wasn't her. She said, it's not me, it's God. She always would say that, and she would always say, if you don't believe, I can't help you. So we have to think about those things that we believe in. We have to think about what are our beliefs in our communities, what are our values, and we have to be kind of strict with them, because in this day and age, people want it to change a bit. You know, they want it to be open to other things, and that's fine for individuals. But there are reasons why people have cultural ways. Like, for example, in our community, Auntie Louise was a dreamer, so when she would dream about things, that's what we would follow, because that's our spirituality. And usually, like back in the day at that time, those are the people who made sure that our community was well, that our community was healthy. Because whenever we had a problem in our family, she would come to us, and we never called her. She never asked, we never sent for her. She knew. She just came, and came and talked to us and helped us. That's how those really, truly spiritual people are, and I believe that those people will come back to us one day, that those people will be back in our communities and will be there having that kind of world, for our children. I think that would be beautiful. I think that would be beautiful if our children were able to practice their culture and language and have their spirituality and not have to question everything. Because right now it's getting to the point where things are getting pretty weak, and it's getting to the point where we have to strengthen it very quickly, and we all know that. So, I'm okay for time. Okay. So there's so much to cover here, and I don't have that much time, but I wanted to say that one of the reasons why I ended up going back to school was because of a program that CSFS had, and it was the home care, resident care attendant and home support program, and I was able to work with a lot of our elders through that program. And it was an incredible time for me. And you know, in my lifetime, some people ask me, what do I do and stuff, but all I know is that I've just been lucky. I've just been lucky so many times in my life. For some reason, I have been able to somehow make it through things, or somehow something worked out, and I quite often didn't plan any of it. So I was forced basically to go to that program, and it turned out to be a good thing for me. And I learned from so many of the elders. They were so good to me. People in all the different communities were so good to me and taught me so much. And you know, they taught me about being strong, because that whenever I spend time with the elders, I can't believe how strong they are. And so one of the things that Healing Narratives does is it teaches us to learn from others, to learn about their strength. And I've seen so many people struggle through so many illnesses, and they're so strong, you know, they never ever give up. And I think that it's given me an outlook on life where I don't feel like I would ever give up. I don't feel like I would ever do that, because I've seen way too many people fight way too hard. So I think that I have a lot of people to thank for that. And, you know, I ended up, once that started, I ended up, even though I hated school for most of my life, I ended up really liking school, and I just ended up taking courses all the time, and going to school all the time, and working, and being a mother to my son. But I had so many supports, you know, from my family and friends, from so many people. That's how our communities are. Like, we just have so many supports, and no matter how bad it might get, I always have these people that come to me and just support me out of the blue sometimes, and I just consider myself lucky. Like, I don't know where it comes from, or maybe it's just my ancestors looking after me, I don't know, but I've just been very fortunate that way. And another thing, it's our culture, so that's another important thing. So the Inuit call it being, when they're raising a child, they call it raising a human, teaching somebody to be human. And so they only display the kind of the things that they want that child to learn. They don't display any bad activities in front of them and stuff like that. So that's one of the, I don't know that personally, but that's what I read about. So I think that throughout my life, I've had a lot of people who've come in and taught me how to be a human. And we're not perfect, but that doesn't matter because, you know, like my grandmother used to say, if you want to do something, do it now, don't do it tomorrow. So I just want to let everyone know that I don't want you to be alone. One of my elders came up to me at a gathering and I was feeling really bad, and she said, Tannis, what are you doing over there? Don't be alone. You're never alone. We love you. And we all really love each other, and we're not alone. And I don't want anybody to feel like they're alone. It's so true. Wherever you go, somebody's there to talk to. If anybody's home, especially during this time, don't be alone. If you need to talk to somebody, phone somebody. Somebody can visit you, or even phone the health center. Like, just keep communicating with people, because I know it's been so hard and it just seems like this is going to go on forever, but I hope it doesn't. But Benna did say that she wants the AGA to be virtual every year. So I think that if people think that the AGA should be virtual every year, maybe they should let CSFS know. So I also wanted to talk about creating intentions. And this was discussed a little bit today, but when our people create things, when they're artists, that Fire Dream also taught me a lot about this through healing art, but when the artists are working on something, they're often thinking in their minds maybe about something or someone. They might be healing themselves. They might be thinking about their mother, or they might be thinking about their grandmother, or they might be thinking about something that happened to them in their lives while they're working on their art. And that brings healing. And so our people work on baskets and blankets and earrings and all of these things, or even if they're working on the moose hide or drying salmon or whatever, our intentions are very important. So we know that what we're thinking about while we're creating is really having that impact. And when the lady who helped make my blanket, she phoned me one day and she said, "What do you want on your blanket?" And I said, "I don't know. I believe my ancestors are in the Northern Lights, and I believe they're there protecting me." And that's kind of like why I want to name, because to honor my ancestors. And she said, "You know what? I can't believe you said that, because I've been thinking about you all week, and we're making your blanket, and I keep coming back to this picture, and that's what I want to put on your blanket." So even when they're creating something and they're thinking about you, they put that in their work, and they're connecting with you spiritually. So that's what you do when you're fixing a net. If I was in a bad mood and my grandma was going to go set fish or set net for fish, she would say, "You're not coming with me. I'm not going to catch any fish if you're acting like that." You know, we had to be in a good mood and good spirits when we did things. And that's really important. So when we're going through this change, and when we're making our laws and we're making this impact on our people, we have to consciously have that intention of the goodness that it's going to create. Masicho.